So it's 2023, and I just thought I'd come out this morning because it's really nice weather and assess what I've done last year and try and work out what I'm going to do this year. This is going to be totally changed this year. In about a week and a half, we're going to have some new doors in that window there. And so as a result of that, I need to do some changes. So it's a good excuse to reevaluate now. And as you know, I reevaluate all the time. And since I put in the cloister pergola, it's not really worked, this area, which I suspected it wouldn't, because when you make changes, it's inevitable some things that you've already got are not going to work. Now, I've always loved this Cal Forster border, and this will not really be changed. It will be changed a bit. I've got one or two new ideas on it, and I don't fully know how I'm going to execute that, but I've been toying with moving this structure. When it was originally put in, it was going to be like a focal point and draw your attention, and that it does. But it doesn't do it the same way anymore. It has eupatorium in there, so it looks absolutely beautiful in the summer. So I'm toying with moving it. It's not been decided yet, because it may work out that once I start making the changes in this area, that it will be quite nice where it actually is already. But I don't know. While we're on the subject here of grass, see those? They're the footprints that I talked about. So I talked about when it gets really, really cold and frosty on the lawn, if you walk on it, expect to see patches like this. They're not going to affect it. It's going to come back quite nicely. But what's happened there is that as you tread on the grass, it breaks down the cell structure in the actual leaf itself, and it goes yellow. And that's what you get. So if you're really passionate about your lawn, stay off it in frosty weather. Anyway, so there's a lot to do here, but it's a whole new opportunity once the French doors have been put in. Now, I've resisted doing anything at all at the moment because I want these French doors to be put in, because then I can evaluate from inside the house itself and we'll get to look out here. So I know from that things will change. So the main focal point is likely to be this area just here. So I've got to give it a lot of thought, because the problem I've got, grasses are dead easy to move. They wouldn't be the problem. The problem will be the euphorbias. I think I'll probably keep that. I don't know yet. I ain't got a clue. You see, look, this is the secondary problem we've got. We've got these alliums, and this is summer drummer, and this is what it'll end up like. Obviously in purple, and it'll look quite nice at that point. But we've got lots of new ones I've planted this year, because at the time I'd intended to keep it like this, and this was only 2 months ago. I'd intended that it was going to stay exactly as it is. But then the more I've looked at it, the more I think it has to change. So this is what I'm going to be viewing. This is where the view will bring me to. So I've got to give this a lot of thought. Now, I'm not looking for ideas, people. As I've said before many times, I'm very experienced, and I do come up with 1 or 2 good ideas. And I've got several ideas that I am going to play with once I start. But as of yet, it's not been finalised what I will do. So that's quite exciting, because it is a nice area, but it really is lacking something, and that's something I will find. I will find that. Anyway, right, let's move on. Things that have worked. This cloister pergola has done it for me. It's really good. I really like it. I'm always got in my head that I want to extend it further, but I'm going to resist that because I think it's where it needs to be. I don't think it needs any changes. I've got to just wait now for the plants to do their things. So they'll do the talking in the future. Things such as this rose here will grow up there. And that should cover all this area, to be quite honest with you. I've got the Helianthus that needs moving at some point. But I quite liked it. I ummed and ahed about this in the summer. And they can become a bit floppy. But I thought, you know what, I think I might keep that where it is. I don't know. There's other plants in there that are really not right for the cloister pergola. Although I did put them in when I built the cloister pergola after I put it in. They're not really relevant for it. I really need to be a little bit more strict with myself. And it is going to become a very shady area. But it still will get some sun. And I'm hoping that cottage area there, that's Patagonia, will still get the sun it needs. And it should do. So if you're still watching me at the minute, bear with me. I've got lots of talking to do today. So, yeah, so it's working. It's working. It's I just need to sort one or two things out. I'm quite happy with this area, so this is what's annoying me as well. I'm really happy with this area, and although it looks terrible at the moment, I'm projecting my mind to next year. Well, this year now, aren't we? We're in 2023 now, so I'm projecting my mind to the summer, and I know that's going to look great, but I've still got to think, is it going to work with the rest of it? One of the successes I've had this year as well, or last year, towards the end, and the last project I did was this, the wildlife area, and I just absolutely love it. I've got miscanthus leaves from that miscanthus, as you can see, the leaves, this is the time now when they start blowing away and blowing over, and they are starting to cause me a problem down here already. And I'm expecting that. I am expecting it to do that. Now, at the moment, I refuse to cut back, but it's not going to be long before I do. I tend to take things away as they become shriveled, or shredded rather, and if they've blown down, if they're no longer serving the purpose, they'll go. I'll take them out or cut them back. I shall do that. But I won't take the majority of them out because they're all serving a purpose still. And some of the miscanthuses are looking great. Still looking great. And a lot of the grasses are, to be quite honest. Some of the shrubs, they're still small. You never really see them when I film because I don't really bring your attention to them, but that's a Cornus, Cusa, and that's China Girl, the usual one, but it is a nice one. That's why I've got it. And that will become 12 foot, hopefully, and we'll go up this pergola here in front of it and create almost an entrance way. That's the intention. As I said, as you go along, you have to project your mind into the future and think what's going to happen to it. Where's it going to be in another 6 months, another year? And sometimes it's just worth contemplating on it. This area here, I absolutely love. This is really my kind of thing. Well, it's all my kind of thing because I come up with the ideas and I design them and I build them myself. And the good thing about building yourself is you get to change it as you go along. If this had been designed for me, I would have had to stick rigidly to the design. But because I've built it myself, I've been able to fiddle around with it, change things around, and create something a little bit better than I'd originally intended. Or I hope I have anyway. I'm leaving the dead and dying. They all serve a purpose. I have looked into some of these and there have been ladybirds. I'm looking for one now. I can't see any, but I have seen them on other plants. So I tend to leave these things alone. That's the Symphotrichum or the old aster. And that's still serving a purpose. I've tied it up it can become a bit floppy. It probably does need to have a bit of a cutback. A Chelsea chop maybe would serve that well, but I like the tallness of them, so rather than do that, I'll try and support it, and I'll probably put some sort of a plant support around it. There's a euphorbia here. It's Wallenberg's Glory, and it's just starting to grow, as you can see with the green at the bottom. They're looking very healthy, and this is why I leave the dead last year's growth alone. But that very soon will have to come down. I will probably make a start soon. I don't really like to start it till the end of January, but that's mainly my grasses that I like to take down at that time because they're still serving a purpose. But the problem is they're all starting to grow. The Calamagrostis, Carl Forster, is definitely growing, and that's the one right down at the bottom there. That is starting to leaf up already. Now we've come up with this idea, haven't we, this year? And this is a plant support, and this is tubing, just simple tubing with this structure around it, and it sits in. It's 3 supports there. They're just simply knocked into the ground. That's another Elianthus, and this one's Augialis, and that'll grow really, really tall, and it's failing. Although I've not seen it in other gardens, is that it flops for me, and I think it's because, as I've said in the past, that this has been a productive fruit and vegetable garden, and it's got a lot of nutrients in it, and I've added to that with Plant Grow UK, which is a mulch I've put down, and it's a really good one. But I've added to the soil itself, but it's a good thing to do still. I'm still going to continue to put down Plant Grow mulch because it improves the structure of the soil. Now this I call the boardwalk border, and I had to do some major changes because if you look back on some of my videos, you'll see there was an actual Lincolnshire rail and fence coming here. We've moved that. So we've put that tin there, and the reason that's there, I know it looks daft at the moment. You think, well, why is that stuck there? Okay, forgive me for all the bits of wood. There's changes coming on there. That'll become more apparent as the year goes on. But the reason the tin's there is because I'd like to put this Miscanthus, which is the Lutaria riparius, which is the big one. I'd like to put it in here. Now, there's 3 little pots in here, and what I did at the end of summer was I put them in because I wanted to see what they would look like from up at the house. And at the time, they were still in full leaf. And they look fantastic down here because there was other plants already growing. The Elianthus was doing its thing. The grasses were coming up lovely. The Symphotrichums were doing their thing. The euphorbias, they were all looking good at that point. And I just needed to be sure that that would look good. And it does. It continues to. So the only way you can get to this section is via paths like this. And then down this path here as well. And as I said, paths create a journey, points of interest, take you to places you want people to walk to. That's why I've got them there. And I've been, well, not lucky because I've learnt from experience that if you have a hedge like that, do not dig the border right up to it because you will regret it long term because you need it for maintenance. And then the upside of it is that I get to look at the border from both sides. So not only do I get to look at it from on the boardwalk and the deck and over there, I also get to view it from the back here, which gives me planting opportunities to put different plants in. This is Erysimum Bowles Mauve, and I took the cuttings of these, if you remember. If you look back on the videos, you'll see me taking this very cutting. And I've managed to keep this Erysimum going for the last 10 years, I think, through cuttings. It's the plant itself, probably you might get 4 years out of it if you're lucky. I tend to do, but it's all in the pruning, which I've also done a video on. So this is the secret garden, and this is another success as far as I'm concerned in 2022. It's yet to grow, and again, I always say this, I've just got to let time catch up with me. Because some of those shrubs and the bamboo and this shrub here, the viburnum here, they all need to catch up. It's time to create what I have got in my head. Now, hopefully this year, This door will get put in here, in this section. Yes, it's rotten at the bottom, but I'm not bothered about that. I'm really not worrying about it. I'm going to put it inside this structure. And although that's rotten, I may change as I go along. I might cut the bottom off. I don't know. What I intend to do, to be honest, while we're talking, I might make that more of a gate than a door. So where the rot is, I could cut that off above it. The gate itself, then the door rather itself, will drop down to act more as a gate, which would look really interesting in here. Because don't forget, this is a structure in itself that we affectionately call the pillbox. And it's really, really nice. And again, I've used the corrugated sheets on top of the roof there to give it a bit of interest. And it works with the shack. Looks really good with the shack. So there's not a lot else I can do in this area now because it's pretty much done. Apart from the seats. I'm not keeping those seats. Those seats are going to be changed to a wooden seat. I might continue to put in some more ferns. I don't know. Time will tell on that one. So the secret garden's been a success anyway. I haven't fed the birds this year. I'm starting to run along with the theory that my garden needs to provide more for the birds. And yes, I can get lots of seed and put it in there and encourage the birds in. But to be quite honest, one thing that a bird feeder does do is it attracts cats as well. We've now got a cat called Hamish, and he's a young ginger, and he's going to be let out very soon. And it will attract him round here. So it's better that the birds find their own food within the garden. If you plant your garden up with birds in mind, then you're going to provide all the seed that they need, really, rather than encourage them to all mass around one area. I do like it as a structure. I love that structure with the weather vane on top. It's really nice, and that's another one of my own creative little things. And then I put the lead around there, around the top. So we put the lead capping, I guess it is. I used to work with the lead, so I found that quite easy to do. And then I made these little lead birds and just stuck them on, and it looks all right. But like I say, I think I'm going to really, as we move along, aim to let the birds find the food. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is the shack, and this was a build of passion. As I often say, that light, I have to move it. It is really getting on my nerves now. I say that because from up at the house and from anywhere in the garden, that light actually covers the name The Shack, and I've looked at putting the shack wording itself in other parts on it, and it actually works lovely there, as does the light. So you've got to make the decision which should be moved. Should it be the light that gets moved, or should it be the actual name The Shack itself that should get moved? I don't know. We've been in keeping with this, so we've got some corrugated sheeting on the side, as you're aware. We've got that corrugated sheeting there. Where is it? There it is. And I needed to keep that going, and Kathy found these in the shop. These letters, they are sold individually, and they kind of keep in keeping with it. Now, one problem I've got with the shack at the moment, you should probably hear, is I had the doors made in the spring, or rather the summer, and they've swollen up now. I've got some work to do on these. I can't get in and out very easily at the moment. But I'm quite happy with the shack. It needs some intervention. We need some more work. We definitely need more work in here. But it's lovely. I love it. I love it. And I don't get to sit in here as much as I should. But every now and again, I will come down and sit in here with my cup of tea. I keep things like this in here. This is my artwork. These are just mug holders or mats that I do. So I'll get some great views from in here. And we are going to try and dress it up a little bit nicer. We are going to make it look like it should be something, and it will be something, and it's not massive. What is it, 6 by 8 inside here? The whole structure itself's become about 30 foot long with the boardwalk and this decking. And I just like it, and there's probably still room for movement at the moment. I have another idea. I'm desperately trying not to do it at the minute. The other idea that I've got. Yeah, quite happy with that. Now, one thing I've got a problem with is this. There's Catinus, likely to be royal purple. It was already here when I got here, as was the berberis, both cracking plants, shrubs. But, dear, I'm torn between the two. It only needs one shrub. The Catinus is causing me problems constantly. The berberis doesn't really cause any problems, but I prefer the Catinus to the berberis. And if I was going to get rid of one, I would get rid of the berberis and not the Catinus. But the Catinus isn't performing well. I've resisted cutting it back through winter this year. I did a major cutback last year, as you can see from those dark branches there. The main limbs, the dark brown ones there and further down, with some major trimming on all of it. And it's created quite an interesting look. The problem being, it gets too big. Now, the only way to fix it at the moment is to take that major limb off there. That one. Leave these two. Leave them alone. And let's see what we can work from that. But we'll work on that one through the new year. This was one of the first structures to go in. This one here, the owl. That's a bronze cast owl made by an artist. I bought that down at Hampton Court Flower Show. And it's sat 10 foot up on the telegraph pole. I love that. I used to do lots of these I put these into one or two gardens that I've designed in the past. It's kind of a signature of mine. But with my own, I've put these chains on it because I like this, and it's kind of a symbolism of me being chained to the garden, because I think at times we all feel that we're a bit chained to the garden, and it can become a bit of a nightmare for us. And I'm no different to the other people. Sometimes I feel the same way. I feel I'm chained here, but I love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So that's a view down to the Cloister Pergola, another area I shall be working on in the summer, if not the spring. So this is really what I used to call the shady border, and I've done a lot of work on this tree over the last 2.5, now 3 years, and it was always a good shape, but there was always a problem. Be quiet, here comes Kathy. There she is, look. That's my girlfriend. Anyway, right, so this is what I used to and still do call the shady border. And I'm quite happy with it at the moment, this particular bit anyway. There are changes I'd like to make, but I'm going to leave it because I did make some changes. And this was redeveloped at the back end of last year, if you remember. We'll wait to see what the changes are. There's a couple of hydrangeas in here that I'd like to move. I don't think they're going to work long term. You're all right, make as much noise as you want. Let's keep it real. As you're aware, I never edit my videos. I just go for a run for them. Why don't I edit them? Well, because I don't know how to edit them. So I just have to hope I don't get anything wrong. So this is the gravel area. And I worked on this time last year. This didn't exist. This was mud. Well, just before that, it was grass and then mud. But now it looks great. We put the pergola up. And that's looking great. I've got another rose called Woolerton Old Hall, and I'm going to be putting that up here. I've got This particular one here, Gardener's Delight, Generous Gardener rather. That's called the Generous Gardener. That's up there. We've got a clematis on this bit. We've got an hydrangea here, or a schizophragma, growing up that. But I intend fully to put up another rose because I think it needs it. It's a lovely area. Me and Kathy don't get to sit in it enough. There she is. Look, she's going past again. Anyway, so remember I talked about Donald the duck I had? This is where he used to live, and we've got some water boatmen in here, and I'm hoping that there's still some alive. You tend not to see them at this time of year. They do go a bit deeper. And this is an old cow drinker, and I've got that little fountain there that's just been working then. It's just decided it's going to stop doing its thing because I'm here. Let's move it, see if we can get it working. It gets clogged up, you see, that's the trouble. But it is like a little water fountain, and it does its thing. When it does its thing, it looks quite nice. It's not working now. Now, there's another little feature here. I'm going to move that. That's wasted there. It doesn't need it. There's too many features around that little section. But I love this area. This works lovely. And at night, it lights up because I put some fairy lights up there, which you can just make out at the back there. 3 sections of them, and they come all the way across these fins, and it lights up at night. It's lovely. This is one area that I don't do a lot to anymore because I feel I've got there with it. I think I'm quite where I want to be, but there's 1 or 2 little changes we're going to see. We've put some new plants in this year. We're going to see how they perform. One thing I'm not too happy with is the fact that that beautiful Miscanthus cheiugensis could do with being moved completely to the right, away from the euphorbia. It's just slightly too close to it, so maybe this spring I will lift and move it to the right, and then that'll give it more space, because that's my euphorbia malachi, the one I said would produce these purpley red tips, and it is doing this year, and I do fully believe now that that has come through purple and gold, another euphorbia. But I had many euphorbia at the time, including this one, which is black pearl. That could be one of its parents as well. I don't know. There were so many I had at the time, very famous ones, and found the seedling. In fact, found 2 seedlings. One was more greener, but this one was on the grey-blue shade of the colour wheel, and it looked really nice. So kept it. Actually gave it to my nephew, who gave me it back as he moved about 6 months later. And I said, don't throw it away, keep it and bring it back if you don't want it. Because at the time I had so many euphorbias I didn't need any more. And he brought it back, and it was still a little seedling, really, no older than about 2 months, 3 months old, and it's proved to be brilliant. And it's now, that's the cutting of the original cutting, I do believe, or is it? Is that the original? I don't know, but I have kept it going because I prune it at the correct time. I'll show you that as we go along. So I don't really show you this area much, or not enough. And this is the entrance. We're going to have some major changes up here, not on this particular bit, but we are going to make some major changes here for some little architectural goodies here. And we're going to make this more like a courtyardy feel eventually. We haven't done it yet. I've promised Kathy I'll get on with that. So this is lovely, this, when you walk along here. Oh, we're nearly up to half an hour, so I'll cut this video in a minute because I'm sure I've lost a lot of viewers at the moment. But I just wanted to do a review of last year, see where we're at. We're doing all right. So this bit here is like a wall that goes along the front of the Art Deco bungalow, which it is Art Deco. It was built in 1933, and it's lovely. It's like the TARDIS. It's a lot bigger than it looks. So that they put a wall there, and I've seen original photographs, and that was actually slabs. The 3x2 council slabs were stuck there, holding the bank back, and they were falling all over. So the previous owners actually had this wall built, which is beautiful. I wish they'd built it a bit wider. I mean, this first section here is great, but as it goes to the bay window, it's a little bit slender. And this is one change I've been toying. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but where the the white markers are, I say yellow because I used to have yellow ones. They're now turned to white. These white markers that I've put out, I'm thinking of putting a a full wooden deck in there, so we're going to attach it to the wall, take it across there. So what's that? Let's count it. 2, 3, 4, 5 metres. So we've got 5 metres. What does that transfer as? 5 metres? About 15 foot. Thereabouts, a bit more, but thereabouts. It may end up being a bit smaller. And I thought, well, why don't I do that? Because we're going to be putting a door in here, in this section here. So we may as well put some sort of a seating out here, because we will use it a lot. And as you can see from here, we're quite a way above the cloister pergola. In fact, I'm higher than the cloister pergola, so you can see how high this section actually is. It's very high. And that Calamagrostis down there just continues to look superb. Not to most people would think that's dead. Yes, it is dead, but it's looking really good. And it is already growing from the base. This is why I'm talking of, by the end of the month, I think I'll definitely have to cut it down. I've been told that there's going to be some cold weather coming, so it may be worth leaving it. This Miscanthus is the one I've been showing all last year, called Memory, and he's still offering something to the garden, and this is why I don't get rid of him. I keep them. Like this Phalictrum. Yes, it's dead, but look at it. It's just offering something to the garden. Now, if I took that out, that's acceptable, but what would I have left? Nothing. It'd just be bare soil. So I might as well continue right to the point where I have to take them down and have to remove them, because they are offering something to the garden. They're keeping the insects fed and the birds fed through the insects that will overwinter in them. And this is my point about the bird feeder, about bringing that in. Not using it as a bird feeder as such anymore, and letting the birds find their own food within the garden, because that's really what they should be doing. We can encourage them, we should encourage them in the worst times, and probably that's about it. When the snow's on the ground, then they cannot find anything else. That's the time I'm probably going to lean towards. I will buy a wildlife camera for this, so we can get a view of what's going on. The one surprising fact that I'd forgot about, and I should have remembered, is that you get some lovely... Let's show you. You get some lovely views through the water, as you can see there. So the reflections that come with it are really good. I will take those leaves out. They won't stay in there for long. They will be taken out. Okay, so probably go back to where we started and end the video there, because I'm now into 30 odd minutes. Some of you will have made it to this point, and some of you will have given up. You'll have been sick of listening to me, but that was 2022. We're now 2023. There's a little bit I'd never show you. There's another owl up there we had put up there last year. And then this is my standing out area, as you know. Maybe 1 or 2 changes. I've got the old wooden shed that needs a roof. I'm going to put a tin roof on this year at some point, because it is getting water in it now. I knew it would, second hand, but only cost me 40 quid. Good bargain. And pretty soon we'll have to do the cut back in there. So let's see what this year brings. Hopefully lots of goodies, lots of new projects, and hopefully something for you to be inspired by, and to get out into your own garden and do what you need to do. Don't be afraid to give it a try. We can all do it. Take your time, ask for advice, ask for help, and before you know it, you'll have a work of art in your garden, and you'll love doing it. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Ta-ra.